Welcome. I want to open up our Merrimack School District School Board meeting for November 18th, 2024. Will everyone stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you. Glad to see people here tonight. I want to open our meeting to public participation. If you would like to speak to the board, you are welcome to come to the mic and state your name and address. And if you are a student, you never have to say your address. So I'll open up the floor.
Hi, good evening. Nicole Tomaselli, 11 Knollwood Drive in Merrimack. I would like to address the board tonight about some concerns I have about athletics at the middle school. And my concerns are kind of twofold. I want to talk about first the capacity problem we have. Our middle school currently has 270 boys and 241 girls. There are a variety of sanctioned tri-county sports programs available. However, when you stack them up season by season, our boys have 2 less teams and 2 less programs that they can participate in. In recent years, and I'll speak from my experience as a parent both with soccer and basketball, we're having large numbers of boys try out for teams with very few spots. And I hope we all agree that middle school sports should be about exposure and opportunities and building confidence so that these kids develop a sense of worth as a student athlete so that they will try out in high school and will continue. I really hope it is not about playing the club stars, studs all year, every sport, all the time. I sometimes wonder if I'm alone in my thinking on that actually in this town. But I need you to know that we are having trouble getting our sons to play. They're getting cut a lot, and many of them are, and I'm one of the few brave people that are willing to talk to you about this, but we understand our kids aren't going to make every team. I understand my kid is not going to make every team he tries out for. I really, really need there to be some other offerings after that. I need there to be some enrichment. I need there to be some intramurals, some clubs, some things to keep him involved in a school community. Because if we take a 7th grader and we tell them they're not good enough and we don't make anything happen for them and we fast forward 5 years, we know what it looks like. I do not want kids, mine included, any kid coming off a bus at 2:30 to a house to play video games for hours and hours and hours. I want them active and social with their friends in a supervised and safe environment. I know I was at the budget meeting last year when we had to cut $1 million from the budget, and that is a tragedy. We cut foreign language, and we kept gifted, and we kept enrichment. But I just don't see the enrichment offerings coming forward. There are a handful of small offerings, but the kids want activity. They want sports. And it doesn't, like I said before, it doesn't have to be a sanctioned tri-county team like an NHIA sanctioned. It could be, and I've suggested a few different things in the past few months, more than once. Intramural sports, mountain biking club, flag football, boys volleyball, inclusionary basketball for middle school would be fabulous. There's tons of options. We just need creative solutions and people willing to be creative. And I also understand that our teachers might be tapped out and not wanting to coach. I get that, which is why we need strong partnerships with the MYA, number one, with Park and Rec, with police, fire, our EMTs. I mean, I would love to have my kid in a mountain biking club with a bunch of EMTs at Greater Woods. Even once a week would be fabulous. So I just really need the board to understand that we know the budget times are tough, and financially I think it's probably going to get harder in the next few years. This isn't about money. This is about creative solutions to problems that we see, and I need to make sure that you're seeing the problem that's existing right now. That's it. Thank you.
May I ask, Nicole, may I ask, could you give me a call in the next day or two so we can talk about it?
All right. We will move on to recognitions. We have a very creative recognition for tonight.
Well, I had one of the most enjoyable cable programs I've had in a long time. My last was last week, I think it was, and we have two rock stars with us tonight who we're going to recognize. That's Trey Nichols and Carter Williams. There was a videography competition in the state. There were a large number of participants out of 65 submissions of videos from 14 different school districts. Trey and Carter placed second. They did a video which was absolutely terrific called Halloween Rapper, R-A-P-P-E-R, and it was fabulous. I don't know if the cable program has played yet, and if you had a chance to see the video, but please watch it. So we've asked them to come here because these are two young adults who are really going to do well in life, and so Trey and Carter, why don't you come on up and we'll recognize you. So if I put the microphone up here, you guys want to talk a little bit about what you did for a minute?
I'm Trey. I don't think me or Carter really knew what we were doing when we made that. We were kind of just trying to get a grade. I'm sure we can all relate to that. But it kind of blows my mind how big something that seems so little in my world could be, it's really cool, and I'm really jazzed about this opportunity.
Yeah, like Trey was saying, we were only just doing it for the grade, but we weren't really expecting it to get as big as it did, and we certainly weren't expecting to win second place. So it was really like an amazing opportunity to go as far as it did, really.
You guys did an outstanding job. And congratulations to both of you again, because it was an awesome video.
I've said it at the last board meeting, it should be a PSA for every applicant. It was great. Thank you.
Okay.
And it was, when Bill's program comes up, definitely highly recommend watching the video. It was excellent. Moving along to informational updates, superintendent update.
All right. Thank you. Let me first say that a while back, when we were talking about a strategic plan and a mission statement, vision of a learner, vision of a graduate, you asked that we post our mission statement in as many places as possible. So we've had these posters made, and they're being distributed to all the schools to be prominently located in the schools, and we will follow this mission forever, and we until it's revised, certainly, but it's a very comprehensive one that was developed by the leadership team, reviewed during the strategic plan process, and we're very proud of it. So these are going out to the schools sometime this week. All right, from Nancy Phillips, administrative assistant to the athletic director, 213 students have registered for 11 teams that are upcoming. Today marks the beginning of the season for wrestling, swimming, bowling, gymnastics, and skiing will begin Monday the 25th. And on December 2nd, once we reach the point after Thanksgiving, basketball, the real winter sports of basketball, ice hockey, indoor track, and spirit begin. So we are looking forward to more participation at the high school level, and that's why I'd like to talk with you, Nicole, about, because those are important feeder programs at the elementary and middle school level. From Sarah Campbell, Dr. Sarah Campbell, who is one of the greatest, I've got to tell you. Every school system should have a Sarah Campbell. This past Saturday, the high school hosted 36 schools in sort of a preliminary Granite State Challenge competition. There was a 60-minute 100-question trivia test that were taken by a number of schools, the 36 schools. The top 14 scorers will be selected for participation in the Granite State Challenge on TV. As I said, there were 14 teams. 14 of the top teams will move forward. And I want to thank Sarah and the other staff who volunteered to work on that event because it was very, very successful and very well run. I want to congratulate the high school performing arts program for their outstanding production of Clue. It was very successful, and we congratulate them. From J Muse, certainly some students have stood out. I want to announce the J Muse Students of the Month. Purple Team, Annalise P. Green Team, Russell H. Blue Team, Grace C. Red Team, Jake W. Yellow Team, Riley C. And Orange Team, Mason E. Sometimes we're a little reluctant to announce last names, but, Annalise, Russell, Grace, Jake, Riley, and Mason, congratulations because you've done some outstanding work. And that is it. Thanksgiving will be upcoming before our next meeting, so I want to wish our staff, our students and their families, and all of you a very happy Thanksgiving.
Comments and questions from the board? Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum Update.
Good evening, everyone. Before Trey and Carter leave, I also just want to take a minute to recognize their teacher. I know Mrs. Moran isn't here tonight, but this is her first year in the district. She's also a Merrimack High School graduate, so it's really exciting to see her come back and be able to really hit the ground running. The video is just terrific, and I know she's really proud of all of you. Wanted to let the board and the community know that this Thursday and Friday, our interventionists will be receiving training on using AimsWeb Plus. AimsWeb Plus is a nationally normed, skills-based progress monitoring tool for reading and math that we are hoping will help our Title I tutors, reading interventionists, and special education teachers better target their instruction. That has been in the works for a while. It's been a challenge to get an in-person trainer. Since COVID, most people want to do everything virtually, but this is really something that we want to do in person. So they'll be on site Thursday and Friday of this week. I also want to take a moment to thank the parents, students, teachers, tutors, and administrators that have attended all of our recent Title I parent nights. Family engagement is part of this federal requirement, and we have had very strong attendance at MES and Muse. We had our middle school meeting last week, not as much attendance, but that's to be expected at that level. Reed's Ferries meeting is this Wednesday, and Thornton's Ferries is the week after Thanksgiving. And so we just want to thank all of the parents that are coming out to learn more about our Title I program. And like Bill, I want to take this opportunity to wish everyone a safe and happy Thanksgiving. It's the best holiday, if you ask me.
Comments or questions from the board?
So noted.
All right. Assistant Superintendent for Business Update.
Yes, thank you. Obviously, we've been knee-deep in trying to get the budget finished. It's been a rather arduous ordeal this year, as it is kind of every year. A couple of challenges. You guys know we talked about the health insurance increase. That's around $1.2 million on the budget. We have a large special ed increase, too, for out-of-district placements. That's around $1 million too. So right off the bat, you're around $2.4 million over last year's default budget by virtue of those items being contractual and legal obligations that need to be incorporated into the default budget. Last Wednesday, I hope Laurie doesn't mind, I'll just do a brief thing on the planning and building. Is that all right? Okay, thank you. Last Wednesday, we had a meeting of the Planning and Building Committee. where we presented a revised central office plan. It's the same number of square footage that we had for the $6.8 million one, the 10,000 square foot central office. Planning and Building Committee has decided that if we're going to do it, we're going to do an office that's going to serve us now and into the future, as opposed to doing something that we'll have to add on in a couple of years and add on in a couple of years, and something that's fractured and disjointed. Let's do it right the first time if we're going to build it. The time frame for such a thing is, let's say it was passed in April. Let's just say that. Certain number of people think, okay, well, we'll just, get that done over the summertime and it'll be ready to go. Well, that's not gonna happen. What we have to do is, first we have to do, and Mr. Trant was there, and I'm glad he brought this up, foundation plans. We don't have foundation plans. We don't have building plans. We don't have roofing plans. We don't have lighting plans. We don't have electrical plans. What we got is a picture. That's all we have, which is the same thing we had when we built the middle school 24 years ago, a schematic on a piece of paper. That's what we started off with. If we can do it with the middle school, we can certainly do it with this building. So during that period of April to October, there's going to be a design thing going on, electrical, mechanical, lighting, everything like that. And then the project's going to be put out to bid in January of 26. Then all the construction's going to begin in April, and then the building will be ready for occupancy in June of 2027. There's no way it could be ready in August 30th of 2026. That's just 6. That just cannot happen. It's unrealistic. Plus, when you do it this way, when you come up with a full specification and drawings and everything like that, number one, you know what you're going to get, and number two, because it's formally bid out, you're going to get a better price. And right now, we're looking at an estimate of around $6.2 million, which was down from the 6.8, because in that brief period, the prices have stabilized, the cost of lumber has gone down, the cost of a lot of things has kind of stabilized, and it's something that we feel is a good budget number. Planning and Building Committee wanted to get another quotation. It's not a bid, because you can't bid on a piece of paper. It's a quotation. We have 2 so far, one from Hutter Construction, one from Ekman Construction, and we're looking to get a third. So once we get the third, we'll put those all together, give that to Planning and Building Committee, and they'll make a final recommendation from there. So that's kind of what we've been up to, and tomorrow night we have a meeting in front of the Budget Committee to give them our year-end review, as we've been doing every single year ever since I've been here, in the same format. Hopefully they'll find that, valuable, and it'll explain the ins and outs of how we got where we are. So that's about it. Thanks.
Comments and questions from the board? All right. For the school board update, I will tag on to what Matt was saying. We are headed into budget season, so there will be multiple meetings in December. We encourage the public to watch those meetings. The main budget presentation will be on December 2nd, and then we will have follow-up meetings where we ask different departments and administrators questions that come from the board. Just as a reminder to the board, there will be a document again this year for you to submit your questions, so we can compile them and not ask repeated questions, to save as much time as we can and get those questions consolidated. We'll collate that as well after we have the initial budget presentation, where we receive our budget books as well. I also want to encourage Planning and Building and Budget Committee members to watch those meetings as well, because you are integral members of this team moving the district forward. And so we encourage you to watch the meetings, and it'll give you an opportunity to get information that is relevant to what the work that you are doing. Also, I want to say on behalf of the board, happy Thanksgiving to Merrimack, to our teachers, administrators, staff, and most importantly, our students and families. We are so grateful and thankful for all of you, and we look forward to entering in this holiday season and all of its celebrations with gratitude. Comments or questions from the board? All right, and we do not have a student representative update from our student representative Haddad tonight. So we'll move on to old business and take a look at the Gallup Survey School Card Report for 2024. And I'll turn that over to Amy Doyle.
In your packet tonight is the 2024 school scorecard for the Gallup poll results for the middle and high school. Recall that in May of 2023, I provided a memo to the board regarding our invitation to participate in this 3-year longitudinal study. It measures student engagement, hope, entrepreneurship, and financial literacy, and career-connected learning. This is in partnership with the New Hampshire Learning Initiative, Gallup, and a statewide work-based advisory group that has put together this survey. This is an anonymous, voluntary survey that students are given the opportunity to participate in. In your packet, you'll notice that our scorecard now includes last year's scores as well as this year's scores, and we've made notable progress in several areas. So just like what the experts at Clifton Strengths recommend, we will take a look at this and help us to set goals for our third and final year participating in the poll.
Comments or questions?
So I just wanted to say I felt good that we did go up in a few places. For example, adults at my school care about me. We went up there. That I have at least one teacher who makes me excited about the future. We went up there. We went up, have a best friend in school. Yep, I have a best friend in the school board too. That's good. And then the scores that maybe we didn't go up, but we still went up in hope, where I think I'm going to have a good job in the future. I have many goals. There's places that I felt like we did, but the ones that we didn't, we were so close. It could have been it seems like a half a person if we went down. So I was pretty happy that we're on a steady pace.
I agree, Lori. One of the things I was looking at is the NHLI participants. They've been at this a little longer than us, as well as the national norms, and we're definitely closing some of those gaps.
Any other comments?
I got a lot of really positive. As I was reading this, I felt good about much of it. Seems like we could do some more when it comes to career training. Mm-hmm. That's the biggest takeaway, and I think if you ask any kid in any family in any district in the state in the country, you'd probably say that's probably that's something that we all need to focus on a lot more. So, but yeah, really great information here, and overall pretty positive.
I was impressed with the attendance. That's been a significant issue since COVID, and to see that, we have the majority of students missing very little or not at all, which is fantastic because we know attendance has a direct correlation to student achievement. And so I really like seeing that those numbers are improving. Any other comments? Thank you. I look forward to seeing year 3. Okay, moving on to new business, Connected Arts Network survey request.
That's also me. I'm speaking tonight on behalf of Thorntons Ferry School art teacher Kate Vines. Kate last year applied and was accepted into a program that's sponsored by the National Art Education Association in partnership with the Educational Theater Association, the National Association for Music Education, National Dance Education Association, and the New York City Department of Education Arts Office. That's a lot. That seems like a lot of the major players when it comes to the arts. And they have launched the Connected Arts Network. And this is a 5-year grant initiative to create nationwide professional learning communities for educators that are either visual arts, music, theater, dance, and the media arts. Last year, they did a lot of meeting and connecting, and this year, they're going to embark on some action research. And to be able to continue, Ms. Vines is asking your support and approval to conduct an anonymous, voluntary, non-academic survey about art to one of her first grade classes and one of her fourth grade classes. I've included in your packet the letter that Ms. Vines would like to send to the parents. It also includes links to the Connected Arts Network website, the surveys themselves, and what the aggregated data will look like. Ms. Vines is planning to email the parents in a format where they can digitally sign permission and essentially opt their student in to participate in the survey. And this is pursuant to district policy ILD, which says that this requires your approval. And we will circle back and share the results with you. We're also planning to post all of this information on the Thorntons Ferry website, which is also in accordance with RSA 18611.
Questions or comments? I have a question, and I'm asking because I am in the middle of an exact same kind of assignment for a class. One of the things that I had to include in my letter to parents was if the data will be shared with the parents. And I see that she put in that you can view a sample of the aggregated results, but not a statement specifically saying that they would be shared afterwards with the parents. Is that part of the plan?
The aggregated data or the Merrimack specific data?
The Merrimack specific data.
It's a good question. I don't know. One of the surveys is digital and one of the surveys is paper. So my guess is the first grade looks like it's a point and she could check. I think that could easily be shared. I don't know about the digital survey, but I will ask her.
Any other questions? All right. So we need to approve her moving forward with this and complying with the law. So I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we accept the Connect Arts Network survey request.
Do you have a second?
I will second.
Motion made by Board Member Rothaus, seconded by Board Member Martin. All those in favor? 500. Thank you. All right, Student Services Parent Survey.
Well, we have recently distributed a survey to the community. I want to apologize to those parents because I failed to put in the opening letter that if you do not have a child who is receiving special education services, this essentially is not meant for you to fill out, and you don't have to fill it out. But we do have 139 responses. We're in the process of taking a look at those now, particularly the comments. I'll bring that in at our next meeting when we have a little bit more thorough understanding of the answers and the comments. We asked questions about the level of communication between home and school, the types of engagement that they would, the times of engagement, I should say, morning, early afternoon, late afternoon, evening, what are the topics that parents would like to see addressed, whether it's the IEP process, other more specific topics such as executive functioning, etc., how knowledgeable parents are of the special education process, which can be overwhelming sometimes for some parents. What type of training sessions would you be interested in? We listed about 10 or 12 possible sessions, asking for comments in each question that we asked. Would they prefer informational sessions in person or Zoom? That's very interesting. One of the good things that came from COVID, if there was anything good that came from COVID, is that we learned the efficacy of online meetings. What I noticed in my former district, and what we're noticing here, is participation is greater because people don't have to leave their homes. They can be preparing a dinner or doing something with the kids, helping with homework, or anything and everything in terms of domestic chores and obligations, but they can also be participating in the meeting. And so we're going to do as many online sessions as we can. And we've asked parents certainly to feel free making their comments. We have lots of comments, and we're going to sort through them, kind of categorize them, and at our next meeting, I'll be presenting the results, and I'll have our Student Services Director, Sarah Reinhardt, here with me also to discuss those results. Okay.
Comments or questions? All right. So at our last meeting, it was brought by Board Member Rothaus to our attention that the Planning and Building Committee has recommended that the board put together an ad hoc committee to be a part of the communication and informational process regarding the SAU building. So tonight, if that is something as a board we want to do, we need to vote on that. So I will entertain a motion to develop an ad hoc committee for planning and building and the SAU building.
So I just want to say, so last year, the board recommended the ad hoc, so I think that's how it was presented to planning and building. The ad hoc committee would be different than planning and building because we're going to need people on the ground that are willing to open up the SAU building. There are some members of the planning and building committee that are willing to support that effort, and there's people that feel like that's not their job. So it's just to get more people involved to help with the process of getting, the information out.
What we want is an ad hoc committee that represents all stakeholders in Merrimack.
Correct. And last year, I would say Chris Christensen, I thought, did an outstanding job. He was on the forum. He was really trying to give people correct information. I want people to have the real information, not information that they heard third party. I think that's really important, but to reach out to some of those major stakeholders and then say anyone who's interested, we'll take anyone. And I know last year Gary Krupp came, and he also was very, he gave us a lot of really good feedback on why it might not pass. And he said at the meeting here, I know why you invited me now. And I thought he also was very important for us.
You made a motion, right?
I'd made a motion.
So I'm going to second your motion.
Well, I didn't make the motion. I'm entertaining someone to make the motion.
I will make a motion that we create an ad hoc committee to the Planning and Building Committee for the purpose of supporting the recommendations that the Planning and Building Committee make in regards to the SAU building.
I will second that.
All right. Motion made by Board Member Hardy, seconded by Board Member Martin. Any discussion? Naomi.
I think one of the things to say about this is that the way I understand it, and I think Bill said this last year when we were talking about this same project, is this: we're not trying to sell anyone on this building. The point of this is to provide accurate information, because what happened last year was there was a lot of inaccurate information floating around. And, really, I feel like this is just sort of like community ambassadors, like Lori was saying, to work with the Planning and Building Committee, to work with us, to be like a verified source of, hey, you're a figure in the community who can go to these meetings and have the facts and just the facts, and not speculation and not hyperbole. And so that's kind of my opinion on it.
And understanding the need.
Yes.
That's, I think, having all of the facts about the plan and understanding the need. Those two things together make an educated voter. And that's all we ask. We ask that voters are educated with accurate information, and then they make the decision, and then we move forward with whatever decision, however we need to.
Lori.
I have 2 points. One, I think this year, to be a little different, it would be a really good idea if we gave them, like our goals of what we wanted them to do. Like someone go to the Parks and Rec meeting, someone go to the MYA meeting, someone go to all of our PTA meetings. So someone is actually going and presenting the information out there. And again, to make sure that all the information's, accurate. And also having those, one of my really good friends, Angie Zyla Brown, told me, she said, I was against that building until I did the tour. And she said, once I did the tour, I was like, she's like, it's not ADA compliant. There's so much wrong with that building. And she said that tour was what Jenna was just saying, really changed my mind.
And I would add that as ambassadors, we want them to be educated on why this is the most efficient use of funds to solve the problem. We have a problem, it needs a solution. Doing nothing is not a solution to the problem. But we have explored, both with planning and building and this board have explored a number of options. And a lot of people came to the deliberative session going, well, what about this and what, not realizing those options had been thoroughly investigated and discovered that they were not feasible. Evidence-based decision making. So people on the ad hoc committee need all of that information so that when somebody says, well, why can't you just go rent XYZ building down the street? There is an answer to that. It's not been overlooked. The Planning and Building Committee and the board has done its due diligence to investigate all possible options. Why is commercial construction more expensive than house construction? We need good answers for those kind of questions because they're legitimate questions the taxpayers have. And so we want to get ahead with the information and people who know the answers, because we all have a circle of influence in which we can communicate. And that means far more than someone going to our website and looking up the FAQs, which we still need to have. But we need to be able to speak to these kinds of questions. Lori.
And last year, I think we did the most commonly asked questions, if we could go back and get that information, because even my brother called and he said, why can't you take that part of the high school and move the kids over? And I'm like, well, because we're NEASC accredited, and if we put the SAU in our high school, immediately our high school would go on warning. We could lose our accreditation. There's so many things that people don't know. So they say, well, how about, Rite Aid? And one things I did ask Pat Heinrich to do is a timeline, because, like some of the buildings that we actually walked through years ago, like the old Shaw's building, we walked through that. Well, now there's not a building there that we could rent. The old MYA building, YMCA building, we talked about buying that. We didn't get it. It got sold. Like there's so many places that don't exist anymore, but we did do that work. So to have that timeline so people can see, literally 20 years of work, I think would really be important.
Naomi.
Also, how does a bond work? Why that yes, it's a $6 million building, but we're not spending $6.2 million on it all in 1 year. How will that affect people's taxes? This is a little bit off topic, but tax rates just came out, and one of the things I went back and I did was I went back and looked at what we predicted our tax impact would be, and then what my actual effect on my tax bill would be, and it was very close. We estimated, and it came in very close to what we estimated, and I was proud of that, actually, that was consistent. And so building that trust with, this is how this will affect you, this is the bottom line, and this is why what I kept saying over and over again last year was whatever we do will cost money annually. A bond will cost money annually, and one of the reasons why I personally felt that the SAU building was the best option is because the annual cost wasn't far off from the annual cost of any of the other options, and this was a permanent solution, not a temporary solution, where we'd be done with it when the bond is paid off.
Jenna.
I just want to, and maybe it's too soon because we haven't actually voted, but I think we probably will. I just want to make sure we're getting a really good cross-section, too, of community members. And I don't know how we put that out there beyond our personal circles of influence, not just ours, but the Planning and Building Committee or whoever. How do we open it up to the parent who would probably be really interested, engaged, because he's in financial planning or finances of some sort, or in construction or in whatever, and would welcome the opportunity to do this very specific kind of work, to learn and to help educate the community. So I just want to make sure we cast a really wide net and really allow it to be open to a lot of people. If we end up with a flood of people, then we can kind of figure out how to weed. But I would rather have that problem than the problem of trying to pick, being like, well, thanks for the same 6 people who always step up for everything. Nothing against those 6 people. We welcome them all the time, but we'd love to get a broader spectrum of people, I think.
Let me call the question and then I'll answer your question.
Okay.
So all those in favor of forming an ad hoc committee? Say aye, 500. So now I will work with Shane and Bill to get that communication out there, and also your recommendations. If you know people, send them this way so we can start contacting. All right, is there any other new business? All right, moving on to policies, approval of revised limited English proficiency policy.
Yes, this is the final review. We have had no public comment. As you know, the changes in red have been suggested by our legal counsel. So I'm going to recommend approval of this particular policy.
I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I will make a motion that we accept the Merrimack School Board Policy IHBBA, the Limited English Proficiency Instruction Policy.
Do I have a second?
I will second.
All right, any questions, discussion? All those in favor? 500.
Thank you.
Moving on to the minutes, I will entertain a motion to accept the minutes.
I make a motion to accept the November 4th, 2024 public and non-public minutes.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right. Any corrections or questions? All those in favor of accepting the minutes, say aye. 500. And we have nothing on our consent agenda tonight, so we will move on to committee reports.
So Matt did a great job. The Planning and Building Committee did vote 5-1 to bring forward the new central office. I think it's really important that we do get that timeline together so people understand the long-term work that has gone into it. One of the questions that was asked is, why we only had one bid to refit the SAU build, the old house. And the reason for that is we had already talked to the fire department that we understood, like, anybody on this board or anyone on the old planning and building board knew that was never going to happen. Like, that they were unacceptable. We had mold. We had already done all that work, and so because it was a request, Matt did the request, but he didn't do it. And I think I was very strong in saying, I've been on the school board for, I think, 5 years. I taught in the school district for 24 years. Our administrative team and our school board, we have a really, we have a trust with each other, and we're transparent with each other. We have integrity, and we call each other out if we have to have a hard conversation, but I think that, I really value core values of respect, and so I really encourage people, if they feel that we're not doing something, to come to reach out to the board or reach out to the administration to get that answer. And so I just really wanted to bring that forward because I think I had a strong reaction to that, because I know how hard our administrative team works. I know how hard the school board works. And I know that we have really bonded through the last few years. So I just wanted to say that, and that's my committee report.
The Professional Development Committee met last week. Unfortunately, I was not able to attend, but I caught up with the folks running the meeting. Much of the discussion was around the special projects that each school is allotted a certain amount of money to, go ahead with a certain project. So there's lots of discussion surrounding the different ideas that they had. And were they approved? All of the ones that...
All of them were approved except for MES. We're still waiting on a partial grant to come through.
Great. So some really great ideas involving student wellness and health. The middle school has discussed putting up monitors to go kind of display daily announcements and upcoming events and things like that, and bringing in some guest speakers as well. So some really good things happening at our schools with the professional development special projects going on.
And the Joint Loss Management Committee met. I, too, was not able to attend because my dentist changed my appointment. That was real convenient. Anyhow, the building inspections are continuing. Tom Tussaud, who is head of our maintenance team, is participating in all of those inspections. The SAU buildings, student services, and maintenance buildings have been inspected, and work orders have been created based on what those inspections revealed. Committee members are still signing up for the other building inspections. Workman's comp claims with student interaction incidents have increased. Sarah Reinhart thinks that that's not so much because we're having more incidents, but that we have encouraged teachers that this is a safe place to report them. So we're having a higher reporting rate than we've had in the past. And crisis prevention intervention training for staff is happening now. We have recertifications happening. We have train the trainer happening. We've had some requests at some of the elementary schools to address some issues because we're seeing behaviors at younger ages now than in the past. So that CPI training will be expanding as we go down the road. And then our next meeting will be in March. This committee is required to have a meeting 4 times a year, and so our next meeting will be in March. All right, correspondence.
I had correspondence with a Merrimack constituent also concerned about middle school athletics.
And we had a number of correspondence that the board was on regarding some student incidents and parent concerns. And they were forwarded, or the administration was already on those emails as well. Okay. All right, comments from the board. So I have 2. First of all, I want to let the public know that in December, Planning and Building will be coming forward to make their presentation and recommendation to the board. Something to clarify about that: the board has not decided if this is going to be a warrant article on the ballot or not. That is the board's decision, but we have not made a decision on that, and warrant article decisions will not be made until the end of our budget discussions at the end of December. But they are coming to do a presentation. At that meeting, they will be discussing not only this plan, but also a lot of the questions we've brought up that the community has. What have past proposals been? Why do they not currently work, etc.? So that will be in December. My second one is related to our budget season, and many of us did see this. This came out, this news release and story were on Friday. And I think it's important for the public to understand the impact this will have. So I'm just going to read part of this article. New Hampshire schools told to expect less state aid for special education costs. Education Commissioner Frank Edelblut told school districts this week that they will see significantly less state aid for special education costs, leaving many worried for their students and local taxpayers. I'm going to skip over the opinions, comments made by superintendents and get to the facts. Under Edelblut's plan, the state would pick up 67.5% of its portion of special education aid in 2025, down from 87% this year and 98.3% in 2023. For example, a school district that would have received $100,000 for a student, for example, would see that drop by $33,000 to $67,000 under the change, Edelblut said in an interview Friday. Edelblut pointed to an increase in the number of students qualifying for special education services and increased costs for those services. Costs per students are up 9.3% over last year as well, from about $128,000 to $140,000. That's the cost to provide the services have increased. So you can read this article on NHPR. It's also on WMUR's page. Our administrative team has already accounted for this in the budget, this loss of revenue. They're already on top of it. But I want everyone to understand, we are legally obligated by federal and state law to provide special education services and a free and appropriate education to all students. It doesn't matter if the state cuts our aid, we still have to provide the services. And it has to be in our budget. And I think everyone, if you're concerned and you have concerns about the impact on your property taxes, should be reaching out to our state legislators, because this is a state legislature problem. Lori.
And I think that as a school board, we should be writing a letter to our state representatives and to the Commissioner of Education and to the new Governor, Kelly Ayotte, about our concerns. And, yes, guess what? Special ed numbers increased, and it was, COVID came, and we had we are dealing with so many more issues that it's not over in a year or two. And so to put together a well-drafted letter to state our concerns and put that to everyone, and to the union leader, to everyone, like, hey, this is going to impact everyone.
Jenna.
I just want to add that, since we're in budget season and we've talked about this in past budget seasons, one thing that we can do to help with our caseload of special education students is to provide strong intervention services so that they never get to that point. You know, we've added some reading interventionists. We've talked about possibly adding some math interventionists. You know, I know our budget failed last year, and so it's risky. But at the same time, if we're having the aid for special education be removed or reduced, being able to provide intervention services so kids do not get to the level of needing special education services ends up being a cost savings measure, because special education services are so much more costly. And I know I work in a district that has a very robust intervention team, and their you know, caseloads are full of kids, and they are providing services to those students so that they don't end up in special ed. They're meeting those students' needs and catching them up and bringing them where they need to be. So, you know, just something for the community to be thinking about. It when interventionists are in there, they're important because they're the gap between regular classroom instruction and special ed. And those kids that fall in there, if we can help them get where they need to be without being referred to special ed, it's a huge cost savings to the district, and obviously better for the student as well, because they're not being, you know. So, just my 2 cents.
Could I?
Yes, Matt.
This is something that we have been talking about for 24 years. I remember when I first got here, Ken Coleman was the chair of the school board. He was talking about adequacy. What happens is the state has all these fancy formulas, and then in the end it gives them an answer. Then they look at that answer and they don't like that answer. So they say, okay, we're going to fund it at 70%, 60%, 62%, something like that. This is the same thing going on. They used to call it catastrophic aid. They now call it special ed aid, right? And so last year we got around $580,000. This year, when I was doing the tax rate, setting the revenues and everything like that, had a conversation with one of my good friends at the Department of Revenue Administration, who kind of gave me a heads up. Matt, go low on this one. So you know what I do? If I got a friend at DRA that says go low, I go low. So it's not going to be like we're going to not realize revenue and put ourselves in a deficit position. But what it does is it takes revenue away from offsetting the appropriations on the tax. That's where it hurts. And we don't have a choice on this. It's not like in regular special ed should not exist at the expense of regular education either. And there's where the problem is. And the state has had this philosophy. And I was telling Bill, years ago, I don't know if everybody remembers, if your kid was in driver ed, you got $400 from the state because the state thought it was a worthwhile program. That got pulled around 10, 12 years ago. So if there are 300 kids at the high school taking driver ed through A1 driving school, we'd get reimbursed, and that would net out the cost of the driver's ed. So they weren't paying $500-600 for driver's ed. They were paying maybe $100. There's been this ramping down of aid from the state in incremental pieces over the course of years. So pretty soon, they're going to be out of the aid business altogether, and you know what they're going to do with their money? They're going to spend $2.3 million buying Khan Academy, which I don't know if you guys ever heard of that, that's supposed to take the place of the school district. So instead of us being a school district who engages kids, we'll put them in front of a screen bought by the Commission of Education and have them learn through Khan Academy. It's ridiculous, and it's frustrating having gone through this for decades of the same old thing, and it's got to come to an end.
Let me add to that the federal government has never provided the 40% funding
40% of IDEA, yes.
that they are supposed to be funding, and they get away with just not fulfilling the law.
And I add to that, one of the things I want to discuss with you with Matt and Amy during the budget presentation is, won't be lengthy, but the impact of unfunded mandates. And there have been numerous unfunded mandates from either the state or the federal government over the last 20 to 25 years. the other issue is everything comes at some economic cost. And it's wonderful to be in a state with no sales tax, no income tax. But that puts, as we all know, a tremendous burden on the local community tax base. And if you have a community that has heavily residential component and minimal commercial industrial, you're in trouble, okay? Because you're going to pay an awful lot in real estate property taxes. And so that's something I always have told economic students in the past, beware of people who say we're going to cut taxes or no new taxes. The money has to come from somewhere, okay? And I'd rather have people be upfront and say, we need to raise more money for this reason. And I will tell you that we have never in this school department nor any other that I've worked in have we made a decision on special education services based on money. We do what's morally and ethically and educationally the right thing to do. And we're always concerned about money, but we're going to make sure that students receive the appropriate services in the appropriate setting.
Thank you. I will now open up our floor to public comments on agenda items. If you would like to speak to the board, you may come to the mic and state your name and address. If you're a student, you do not have to state your address. Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Yes, motion made by Jenna.
I will second.
Second by Ken. All those in favor say aye. 500. Thank you and good night.